So these last couple months within Bitcoin have been extremely frustrating for Bitcoiners who had some very high hopes about a new administration in the US, among other things. But what we've seen happen is some chop. So we're going to analyze here a little bit the fear and greed index within Bitcoin right now. And then we're going to talk about a couple of reasons why we are 0% concerned about this right now. So where should we start here, fellas?
I think if we take a look at the price and the fear and greed index right now, we see that it was at fear, extreme fear actually. Just yesterday, it was at fear. So you can see how quickly people's sentiment changes. Um, they're probably worse than anything else, right? Because a lot of people in crypto, they literally have no idea what they're buying. They're buying nothing, right?
Yeah.
So the sentiment can change hourly, if anything. If you have a random meme coin that comes out in the morning, it could be worth something, and then in the evening, it could be worth nothing. So I think this is a index that shows you all of crypto, which includes Bitcoin and all these random shit coins. So I think that's important to consider. I do think that people who own Bitcoin are generally a little bit less emotional with their holdings. I think they hold them for the long term and they want to hold them for a while. So I think it's a little bit different for Bitcoiners. So maybe the people who are watching this video aren't feeling extremely fearful, but people who aren't watching this video may be very scared of where this is going.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to say there within Bitcoin and crypto, and the people who are, and that's kind of one thing that I've been trying my best to communicate with people is that there's a difference between people who own Bitcoin and people who understand Bitcoin. And I think when you think about people who own altcoins, the majority of people, they also own some Bitcoin. I know when I first got into crypto, we'll call it, I was buying more altcoins than anything else, but I still had a bit of Bitcoin. So I think, yes, absolutely, the Bitcoiners who understand Bitcoin aren't as fearful right now, but there's still a lot of people out there who are just kind of holding Bitcoin because they think that they need to without really understanding the core concepts of it. So what do you think about that, Forrest?
Yeah, I definitely think that the fear and greed index for crypto is going to be skewed because we're talking about Bitcoin and there's a lot more like real holders of Bitcoin. They understand there's more Bitcoiners that understand what they hold than crypto holders understanding what they hold. Because if they understood what they hold, they wouldn't hold it. So that's going to affect it, right? And the thing is these are highly liquid markets trading 24/7. So this index is very volatile. It can move a lot. It can move really fast. As we see, like yesterday, 44, today 25. Huge volatile swings in sentiment. This is an indication of sentiment around these indexes. There's fear and greed indexes for different equities and different assets as well, of course. So it correlates a lot to price, which I think is interesting, and a lot to what is going on in the greater markets, because this is just a connection, or well, everything's correlated to some degree, right? I think this chart here that we have up is a really good one to look at because we can see the price on the upper chart, the fear and greed index on the lower chart. We can see that we are just in the red now, just in the extreme fear. We're only just below the fear index. We're in extreme fear. And what is Bitcoin's price doing? I mean, it's not doing much compared to what it was doing a couple days ago. Like, it's still in the exact same range, I would say, right? We had a little break up and then hit resistance, little break down, hitting support. It's just kind of chopping it sideways. Why are we in extreme fear? I think that's really the question, is why is the sentiment extreme fear in this position? I think is a good question. Also,
Yeah.
Rajat, I can hear myself through your mic again.
Oh, you can. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay, let me change my mic. I think that might be it. Echo cancellation.
Was it on?
Yeah, does that work?
Okay. Yes. Now I
Is that
can.
better? Oh,
No.
that's weird.
Yeah, it's better now.
It was already on. That's weird. Okay.
Yeah. That
Oh
is
yeah.
weird.
Okay. So if we zoom out on the price, we can actually see that over time we do go from extreme fear to extreme greed to extreme fear, extreme greed. It keeps changing, even though the price is going up over time. Like, we're building a higher and higher floor. We're building a higher and higher price over time. We're building a foundation that goes higher and higher every single year. every few years. We can see that happens in the past as well. So we can see here the price went up here, and then we had a floor built down here, and over time, the price got through both of those prices, those floors, those highs, and it reached new highs, right? So that's exactly what's happening today. We're seeing that Bitcoin consolidated for what, 8 months, 7 months in 2024 after the ETFs, and then it just skyrocketed. So I think what you have to figure out is whether or not you're willing to hold this through the volatility. If you're not willing to hold it through the volatility, you might as well just sell it now. There's
I
no
think
point of you holding it at all, right? If you're not going to hold it properly, or just get rid of it because you're just going to stress out for nothing. You're just going to lose money.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not an asset that you can hold through volatility and get cash flows from. It is cash itself. It is money itself. So the benefit from it really happens over time as it accrues value in purchasing power. I think one thing that we should look at here is when, in the end of 2022, the fear and greed index was almost the same as where we are today. If you scan over that, Rajat, 2022, or just go to 2023 on the chart there, that's the end. Yeah, I mean there too, right? Like it's basically the same on the fear and greed index, but look at the price difference. That's 16,000 US, right? 16 to 18,000 US, and it was in extreme fear like we are today. And what did the price do after that? Like there's this saying where the market climbs a wall of worry, and people are really worried all the time in the market, but the prices still go up. The value of these things still go up, and Bitcoin outperforms everything. So, but people are worried the entire time. Like it makes no difference. You just have to understand what it is, believe in what it is, and understand that over a 4-year period, no one has ever lost. So that should be your time horizon. You should expect to hold this thing for 4 years, and you should sleep super well at night. That's my opinion.
I think that for some reason, and this will probably end at some point, hopefully, I'm assuming it'll be sooner than later, but for some reason, the Bitcoin market is still pretty well correlated with the stock market. And we've seen what's happened with the stock market the last couple of days. There's a lot of uncertainty right now because of the tariffs. Everybody's looking at the US government. Everybody's looking at Trump to see what he's going to do. And the market reacted, as expected, I think, after the announcements from yesterday. But it's important to keep in mind here that obviously, first of all, there's no tariffs on Bitcoin. So that's an important part. And when you're thinking about these companies who are listed on the stock market, they're selling products. The majority of them sell products. And a lot of those products are made in some of these countries now that have tariffs attached to that. So that is, I think it's fair that the stock market would react this way. It's not fair that Bitcoin would. And I think that because there's so little understanding of Bitcoin overall, most people compare these two when in reality, they couldn't be more different in terms of, the characteristics of the asset.
As I get older and I invest more and I save more, I put my money into these assets, I'm realizing that there's always fear. No matter what happens, there's always fear. It doesn't matter how great the market is doing. Like, think about it. We hit new all-time highs with the S&P 500. And while it was going to those all-time highs, people were fearful that there's a recession. Then they were fearful that the tariffs are happening. Now the tariffs are happening. They're always fearful. No matter what happens, people are always scared because they don't want to lose money. They don't want to go through the volatility. I think the goal of most people is to sell the top and then buy the bottom. Sell the top, buy the bottom. They think they can make this their full-time job. And I think that's partly why the markets are so broken, right? Most people, they don't think of their savings as a savings account. They think of it as a trading account. That's just how they see it. I think they're applying the same way of thinking to Bitcoin, and it's going to work against them. It's going to work to their disadvantage.
You also have to think about the fear and greed index, again, is built off sentiment, and sentiment is what people are thinking, and what people are thinking is what they are digesting and what they're interpreting. So what sells, right? What is the media selling you? The media is selling you fear, right? Like fear, like, blood, what is it? Yeah. What's that saying? Like blood sells or something like that?
Yeah, that's what it is. Something like
It's
that.
something like that. And the thing is, right, is There's all these people out there creating content for you that sound really smart. And there's this saying that I absolutely love, which is bears sound smart, bulls make money. And it's totally true, because if you look, there's these channels even on YouTube, right? And I'm not going to say any names, but there's tons of them with flames in the background. Every video is about, recession, whatever. And all these things are always possible. And that's what they're leaning on, is the possibility of all these things. But they are diving into deep-seated fears of people losing everything they've worked for, and they're preying on that. But in reality, our money's being debased, and that means that everything is going to go up nominally over time. So you need to outpace that. And if you're waiting for a recession, if you think you're going to time that, you're going to be totally wrapped up in fear when the market has hit the bottom, and you're still not going to be willing to buy. Back when it was in extreme fear and the price was 16,000, you probably thought the price was going to 5, and you still weren't buying, right? I think really the fear and greed index should be a counter indication of when you buy. I know personally today, literally this morning, I woke up early looking at everything. Oh, wow. Okay. Everything's red. What can I sell? What money can I move around? How can I buy more Bitcoin? That's all I was trying to do this morning for hours. I was looking at the markets, trying to figure out how to buy more Bitcoin, because I could see that this is, that all of this will get worked out. I mean, right now, this is all tariff fears, like Jor was saying, and all of that's going to get priced in. All of these things, like, they'll let up on the tariffs. The interest rate is coming down rapidly. The 10-year is coming down so rapidly. That's another indicator I'm looking at. And that is really what they need. That's what Scott Bessent really needs. That's what the administration really needs. They're trying to force the hand of the Fed. The Fed is being resistant to that. And they're going to force the hand of the Fed. And as soon as that happens, there might be volatility to the downside, but as soon as the money printers start, there's going to be a lag, and everything's going to go skyrocket up after that. So I'm not crazy about timing the market, but right now this seems like a buying opportunity.
Yeah, I think you're saying exactly what I'm thinking about here with I was actually going to talk about FTX here. So you're saying that the tariffs have happened and people are fearful and they're selling, and that's when the price starts coming back up. We can see here with FTX. This is where FTX collapsed. The price bottomed when FTX collapsed, and everybody was thinking, oh, FTX collapsed, the market is over, everything is done. And they were thinking that, oh, I'm going to sell. The reason why these bottoms are formed is because everybody's run out of Bitcoin. Everybody who wants to sell Bitcoin has run out. And again, it goes back to that principle. Bitcoin runs out at every price. No matter what happens, when people are fearful, that's when they're selling. That they're selling because they think that things are going to be worse than they are right now. So when they sell, they give away their opportunity to sell in the future. So anybody who sold here, if they didn't buy back, then they're buying back somewhere maybe here. Or they're buying back here. Or they're buying back here. If we just zoom in or zoom out a little bit here, you can see here that they probably bought back here, or maybe they didn't buy back anyway, but maybe they never bought back. Everybody who's a seller today is going to eventually buy back, or they're never going to have the same amount of Bitcoin again. I think that's the best way to see it. Buy Bitcoin pretty much when everybody else is fearful. Buy Bitcoin when there's blood in the streets. I think that's I think Warren Buffett said that.
Yeah.
I think that kind of my thinking on this is Bitcoin is a very unique asset. That's one of the things we talk about here on the channel all the time. And it really does flip everything on its head. And we were raised, I was raised anyways, I'm sure you guys here in Canada would be similar to this, with that mindset of buying low and selling high. And that's still what people are thinking about when they're thinking through these different things. And I think that that's totally the wrong approach to be when you're thinking about Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is something that you would, instead of buying low and selling high, you want to be buying, I mean, all the time for one, but you want to sell it. So there's never a point where you're trying to sell this thing. It's times like these where you can actually accumulate much more. And that's the win-win in Bitcoin, is when Bitcoin's price is up, your net worth is up, your purchasing power is up from the wealth that you do have. When Bitcoin goes down, any value that you're adding to the world, you're actually getting more in return in real currency, which is Bitcoin. So again, whatever you do for a living, whatever your job is, whatever you take home, you put that into Bitcoin, you're actually getting more of that, which is a good thing. So you can't really lose in Bitcoin. And I think it's a totally different way of thinking through this whole thing compared to the traditional markets, because again, they're selling things that can be created. They can create more of it, whatever it is, whether it's a Tesla car, whether it's a Sony PlayStation, they can create more of that as the demand goes up. You can't do that with Bitcoin. And so I think about Bitcoin very much like a farmer thinks about farmland. There's a couple different things, and scarcity is a big part of this. You can't print more valuable farmland. You can't print more oceanfront property. Well, in Dubai, I guess they figured out a way to do it. But for the most part, so when you're thinking about it that way, like a farmer isn't checking the price of his farmland every day and hoping that it goes up. He's looking for the lot beside him, the section of land beside him that he could actually buy. So he actually wants the price to not rise too much. Otherwise, it'll be out of his reach. He wants to expand his farm. That's how I think about Bitcoin. I want to expand my stack. And when you have days like this, when it is going down, that's the best time to be accumulating more of what you want.
And I feel like it's really, oh, sorry, go ahead, Forrest, go ahead.
You go ahead, actually, Rajat. I'm going to go back to a further back point. So you want to go on, Jors? Go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted to say, most people are so excited to buy random garbage that goes on sale, let's say on Black Friday, let's say on Boxing Day in Canada, whatever garbage they want, whatever plastic thing that they want. As the price drops, they get excited, they want to buy more. But then when it comes to assets, they don't want to buy them. For example, stocks. If the price of the S&P 500 went to $3,000 today, from 6,000 at the high to 3,000 today, people would back away. They'd think, oh, it's going to go lower. But when the price of a TV that they want goes lower, they get excited. When they could actually wait to get it lower at some point because technology is going to improve. On the other hand, with Bitcoin, if you wait, you may never get a lower price. If there's going to be a point when we're going to think back and we're going to look back and we're going to think, I wish I had bought at 80K. I wish I had bought at 90K. I wish I had bought at 109K. That's always going to happen. There's going to be a point where every single person who owns Bitcoin is going to be in profit in terms of US dollars, because that's just how the system works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to go back to Rajat. You mentioned the bottom there at the collapse of FTX. At that point, people were wondering, is there a contagion event? Is Binance next? I remember so many people talking about Binance is insolvent. They have a bunch of paper Bitcoin. They've never been audited properly, all of this. And so there's always kind of a next fear story, and it just compounds. So it's like, what is the actual news? What is actually happening? And then what is the rumors beyond that? So the rumors, the actual news was FTX is insolvent. They collapsed. There's a bunch of Bitcoin being held up. There's a bunch of paper Bitcoin beyond that. And then there's rumors of Binance, right? So it's like, what are we actually seeing in the market? We're seeing tariffs be put on. Like George said, it's affecting all these sorts of different things, but does it affect Bitcoin? I mean, not really, not in a real sense, maybe in some sort of like liquidity sense or feeling of like having extra capital maybe. But again, all of that's going to be changed. All of that's moving in the right direction as far as liquidity into the market. And none of that is stopping. Like, I don't think any of these small term, even news events or rumor things that happen are really going to change the cyclical nature of these markets, which is really how much money is being printed.
I agree. So let's try to come up with one, because if you made it this far in the video, obviously you're a Bitcoiner, probably. Most people who aren't Bitcoiners have a very short attention span. So congrats to you for being here. So let's give maybe one reason each of why we're not worried at all. I mentioned that we're 0% concerned right now about the current Bitcoin market. Just thinking about, I'll get to my reason in a second. I'll let you guys think on it for a sec. But somebody last night, I actually was golfing in a virtual golf league here in my small town. And I remember last time at this exact time, April 2024, I had a conversation about Bitcoin with this guy. And he brought up Bitcoin last night and said, how's Bitcoin been doing? I said, well, it's been pretty slow. Like, if you fell asleep before Trump got inaugurated and woke up yesterday, you'd be about in the same spot. But then, so that kind of, even me, I was like, okay, well, that seems like a pretty bearish statement. But then like 2 minutes later, I was like, you know what? When we had this conversation last year, the price of Bitcoin was about $35,000. So in a year, even though it seems like we're chopping, this thing is more than 2x'd in a year. So, I mean, that just kind of goes to show that even somebody, maybe it's because I'm too wrapped up in Bitcoin, the day-to-day stuff, but that's just my kind of general sense of, where we are right now. And maybe we shouldn't be bearish at all because we're 2x from 365 days ago minimum. So what do you guys think? What's your main reason for, we'll give a shout out to BTC Sessions. Why are you bullish about Bitcoin right now?
I can take that if you want. Yeah. I would just say that all things considering, as far as correlation to the other markets, because Bitcoin is actually still being treated as so much as a risk on asset, and a lot of big money that moves it around is using it as a trading mechanism or a trading tool that is correlated to NASDAQ or tech. These things are down percentage-wise huge, the NASDAQ, the S&P, just today. And yet Bitcoin is still holding up resiliently comparatively. And so I think that is why I'm bullish, is maybe people are recognizing that this shouldn't be a risk on asset. And that maybe it could be a bit of both at this point still, because we're in an adoption phase. But in the reality of what the fundamental nature of Bitcoin is that it is a risk off asset. So I think it's starting to maybe move that way. And that is why I'm bullish.
I'm bullish because it doesn't change anything about how much Bitcoin I own. It doesn't change. If I have, let's say you have 0.1 Bitcoin, you still have 0.1 Bitcoin. The price doesn't matter. You can sell now if you want to while the price is low, or you can wait until Bitcoin is much, much higher to sell. It's up to you. You have 0.1 Bitcoin regardless. Whenever you sell is whenever you sell, right? The people who are selling today, the good thing is they're not going to be able to sell later. So to me, that's extremely bullish. If they get rid of their Bitcoin today, a percentage of that is going to go into the hands of people who are never, ever going to sell again. So let's say even 1% of that moves into their hands. That's 1% of the Bitcoin that's never going to move again. And that just builds that foundation, that builds that floor price. And it just makes it go higher and higher. So if this time, let's say we go down to 70K, next time we'll maybe go to 150K and then we'll come back down to 100K. Then we'll go to 180K, maybe we'll come back down to 120K. What's happening here is that we're building that floor, and the 4-year average price is just moving up and up and up. So don't look at the short term. The short term may be extremely bullish. I get a lot of comments from people saying, oh, over the last 3 days, your store of value hasn't worked. But what's happened over the last 3 years? What's happened over the last 5 years? When you look at it from a logical perspective, it doesn't make any sense to say stupid things like that, because why are you looking at an asset that you're supposed to hold for a minimum of 4 years from the perspective of somebody who's holding for a day or 2 or 3? If you think of it that way, you haven't studied Bitcoin. You deserve to lose money. If you buy Bitcoin at the top and you sell, you deserve to lose it.
Amazing. Yeah.
Agreed.
There's so many reasons to be bullish. I mean, another one is hash rate. Hash rate has increased even with the price going down, which, what does that mean? Does that mean more cheap electricity? Does that mean these miners are still profitable even though prices come down? Like, does it mean demand for Bitcoin, right? I mean, that's what it means. It means a floor price rising. Those two things are very correlated as well. Corporate adoption is crazy. I mean, yeah, we could go on for another hour or two about the bullish things about Bitcoin. There's legitimately, not rumor, but actual happenings of a lot of huge new buyers in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think I had a couple I was going to talk about, but I'm going to focus on one here. And before I do, though, they kind of tie together in a way. It's to do with the administration, and I think that Bo Hines, a couple weeks ago, he's a big part of the Trump administration right now, and he was asked how much Bitcoin they're going to try to get, and he basically said, like, how much gold would you try to get? How much money would you try to get? So I think we talked about that on the live, but he basically said, like, they're going to get as much as they possibly can. So when the U.S. government is sending that kind of signal, that's a pretty big deal. And I think that this is going to tie into my next part here, which was Cynthia Lummis. She's been talking about obtaining 1 million Bitcoin for the US government. That's what she wants to get to. And it seems like they're working in that direction. And they're going to do it in a way that is budget neutral, which is no added cost to the taxpayer. And so what I wanted to bring up here is a tweet that I saw from Josh Mandel. He's the guy who predicted the 84K, I think, a couple weeks ago. So this was the tweet that I saw that I wanted to share. It was from Magoo PhD. Yeah. Did you see this?
I saw this. It's a good question, actually.
Yeah. So she says, what if Bitcoin is being used as a distraction by the Trump administration while they're actually remonetizing gold? And before you say I'm crazy, just look at the price of the two assets since he was inaugurated. Gold is up 17%, while Bitcoin is down 22%. So Josh says this, said, I've actually considered this, Magoo, but came to the realization that it's going to be Trump's piece de resistance. Sorry about that for that pronunciation. His grand finale, if you will, the art of the deal writ large. So he said he is going to rug pull all of the gold bug nations in the BRICS. Brazil will be the only one to see it coming, get out of the way. I won't bother to challenge you on a bet, Magoo. It's true nonetheless. So to me, this suggests that if the US government really does want to get 1 million Bitcoin and they don't want to have any sort of additional cost to the taxpayer, this seems like the most realistic scenario. And Cynthia Lummis has been talking about this at length in terms of revaluing the gold, selling the certificates, and using that to buy Bitcoin. So I really don't see any reason how somebody could be concerned about holding this asset right now. For the last couple of years, there's been about 2 million Bitcoin on the exchanges or available Bitcoin. And the US government is going to try to buy half of that. I don't think that they will, but the point is that if this goes through Congress, which I think that they're going to try as hard as they possibly can to do that, like there is absolutely no stopping this thing for the coming years. Like, and they're going to be forced to, it's going to be written into law that they get 1 million Bitcoin at any price. That is insane, because even if they, 5% of that at a time, that's going to move this thing in terms of the purchasing power of this asset significantly. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah,
I'm a little bit maybe more skeptical that law is going to go through. There's like less than 1% of laws go through all the way and get written into law. So it's a possibility. I think it's a very low possibility. I hope America does that. One thing I will say about all this, though, is if you looked at that trade, if you looked again at the fear and greed index of Bitcoin versus the fear and greed index of gold, right? And we want to do the opposite of what those indexes are saying. I'm sure there's extreme greed right now in gold because gold's price has gone on an absolute tear. So that trade of selling gold and buying Bitcoin, while gold is extreme greed, Bitcoin is extreme fear. That's an amazing trade to do. That's all I have to say about that. I'm not so sure about what America's going to do. I mean, who knows?
But it would make sense. That would be a strategy to do it in terms of, if you want to rug pull strategically, like what Trump's been saying with, since what he ran on, his promise to America was to make America great again. And I know, that's one way to do it is to rug pull other nations. So what's this, Rajat?
what George Forrest was just talking about, the fear and greed index for gold, extreme greed. Yeah, extreme greed right now. That's crazy. So
it's literally the opposite.
Mention.
It's literally the opposite. We're right on the cusp of extreme greed, and we're right on the cusp of extreme fear. We're just in extreme fear in Bitcoin. So it's like literally opposites right now. Yeah. They should trade relatively similar, but I mean, that's where we have an arbitrage right now, is because they're not trading similar.
I wonder if there's something where you can see a long-term trend for this. Because that would be pretty cool. Then you can compare it. You can see where things are actually. Oh, there
it is. Line chart. Yeah, that's over since November. Sentiment, fear, and greed. Yeah, that is gold. It's got to be gold, I think. Because it's in greed right now.
Oh yeah,
it'd be interesting to see gold and Bitcoin kind of side by side, and
that's what I wanted to see.
The markers. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to see. But I guess we'll save that for another video. That'd be pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, I wanted to say,
Yeah, go ahead,
They
Rajat.
they don't even need to sell the gold. They have the Fed. They could just borrow against it.
Do you think the Fed's going to be willing to work with them though for an asset that literally is designed to destroy them?
Why wouldn't they?
Because
And
it's
I
going to
think they do.
destroy
I
them.
think if because Trump is going to if they don't work with him, then Trump is probably going to punish them regardless, right?
Yeah, here.
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, let's maybe cut this off because I could go down a whole
It
rabbit
gets
hole of the
becoming more
Fed
and
and
more
the government.
speculative.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's
So
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if no, never mind. Okay.
yeah, let's wrap this up. This has been
Yeah.
half an hour. Some fear, some greed, some reasons to be bullish. One thing that we wanted to point everybody to is a video. If you're watching this, if you made it to this part in the video, we did a video recently called Bitcoiners Are Built Differently. So you should be able to see it somewhere around my head right now. So make sure you click that if you want to keep watching the Maple Bitcoin crew here. And if you look beside Forrest's head, he has a QR code there. So this channel is, as of now, 100% ad-free. In terms of sponsors, we want to keep our own voice. We think that that's important to us. And so we are very appreciative of all the zaps and on the sats that have flowed through that QR code. So if you feel like donating to the channel for the Maple Bitcoin Lambo Fund, that's how you can do it very easily. And we'll put in the comments the Lightning address just in case you're watching this on your phone and can't scan the QR code. So thanks for another great episode, fellas, and we'll catch you on the next one.